Oh, we are starting with my boy Gilbert Arenas,
Yeah.
who went on his podcast and basically said that Giannis doesn't know how to be a great basketball player yet.
Yeah.
Says that he doesn't know how to train his body, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And to double down, Phil Handy, Lakers assistant, agreed with him. Defend this, or I don't want to say defend this. Giannis is also a two-time MVP, one-time MVP in the finals in 2021. But is this the most egregious basketball take during this offseason? Or take period, not even basketball.
Okay,
take,
so
sorry.
here's the thing. And you had a great tweet about this, by the way, so shout out to you on that. And speaking
Yes,
of
sir.
Twitter, remember how we had this contest about who's going to get to 5,000 or 500,000 first?
I do.
I'm not even at 496 yet. I think that bet cursed me. I have gained no followers since then. It was a terrible bet. Okay, now to the actual content of the show. A really weird thing happens with other basketball players and Giannis. And I flagged this 2 years ago because something would happen where if Steph was going off, or if Harden was going off, or if Durant or LeBron, any of the truly great players were having an all-time night, what you would see is other great players chime in on Twitter about it. And Giannis never got that from anyone.
Right.
And one could argue, well, it was because people hadn't seen him perform at the highest level, at the highest stage.
Right.
Pre-championship, it wasn't just that he hadn't won a title. It was that, similar to James Harden, by the way, he seemed to get a little worse in the postseason. Harden gets a lot worse.
Right.
Giannis got a little worse. But then the fact that people are still saying these things after an NBA championship where Giannis averaged 35, 13, and 6. Gilbert was part of his argument was that Giannis didn't play enough minutes.
38, yeah.
That he was
38 minutes.
That he, you got to play 38, you got to play 40 minutes. Giannis is playing 32 minutes. He was, and by the way, that was a criticism of mine, not of Giannis, but of his coach, that he wouldn't let him play big enough minutes.
Right.
But then what happened in those NBA finals? In those NBA finals, coming off what looked like a catastrophic knee injury, what was Giannis doing? Oh, he was playing 40-plus minutes per game. I'll pull up how many minutes he averaged in just a moment. It should have answered all of the possible Giannis questions. And then he won the championship with a 50-point game.
Right.
But it didn't answer all the possible Giannis questions. And listen, Gilbert's a goofball. He's funny. He's interesting at times, but a goofball. So to me, the most interesting part of this is, why do people still make this case about Giannis? And by the way, it wasn't just the finals. We saw him in these NBA playoffs without Chris Middleton in games 5 and 6 against Boston. Go 40 and 11, and then game 6 to beat Boston. They didn't beat Boston, but to beat Boston, went 44 and 20 with 6 assists. So why do people still say it? People refuse to recognize what Giannis is, and instead they try to make him what he isn't. So people look at Giannis, and they want him to be a traditional wing. And they're like, why don't you have the skill set of the traditional wing? What they misunderstand is what Giannis is the next generational Shaq. What they misunderstand is that Giannis is not a traditional wing. He is the futuristic center. He has the size, the power, and the strength of a center who also can do other things, can bring the ball up, can hit the occasional three-pointer.
Right.
They're looking at him through the prism of he is the modern wing. And in the prism of the modern wing...
I don't know how the hell you're looking at Giannis as a modern wing.
Well, it's the only justification or explanation for this criticism he gets.
Right.
Because nobody criticized Shaq about this shit. Nobody. And they would have seemed ridiculous if they were like, why doesn't Shaq have a pull-up jump shot?
Right.
But because Giannis, they're looking at him through the wrong prism. And you brought up yesterday when we were talking about this, just sitting on the couch, that how much of the criticism with Giannis has to do with the fact that he's a foreign guy,
right.
that he's not in these NBA cliques like some of these other guys. I think that's a piece of it. But I think more than that, it is a misunderstanding of the player that he is. He is the futuristic Shaquille O'Neal who can absolutely destroy you and only make shots within 6 feet. Everything he does from there out is a bonus.
Right.
Now, if the team wasn't able to win because teams just sagged off him and dared him to shoot, then that would be a hole in his game.
Right.
But they won the title a year ago, and I believe would have won the title this year if their second best player doesn't get hurt.
Yep.
Even with their second best player getting hurt, they go 7 against Boston.
100%.
And Giannis in that series that they lost, by the way, what did he average? Oh, I'm sorry. 34 and 15 with 7 assists.
Right.
They lost a series. He averaged 34, 15, 7 assists, and played 40 minutes per game. One other thing, and this is where I will just always disagree with a certain type of former NBA player, and there's also fans that think like this, but I'm more interested in the NBA players. Guys that, and I think this Gilbert applies here, despite all their success, despite what great players they were, don't actually understand the objective. The objective is to score as many points as you can and prevent the other team from scoring as many points as they can. It's very, very basic. Giannis is top 3 every year in scoring, top 3 every year in efficiency. So as an offensive player, he's as good as anybody in the league. Now, he doesn't do it as pretty as other guys in the league.
Right.
And as a defensive player, he's the best defensive player in the league by a mile and way better than the other guys who are they the best player in basketball. He's a way better defender than KD, than Steph, than Jokic, than LeBron. So he is the only way better than Luka defensively, obviously. His game should be unimpeachable. But because his bag isn't that big, and because it's not as pretty as, like, I think Gilbert would take a polygraph and say Kyrie Irving is a better basketball player than Giannis. Even though Giannis scores more, does it more efficiently, and is 100 times the defender and 100 times the leader. I think it is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the goal of the game is.
People are failing to come around to Giannis.
Well, it's unbelievable that that it's still happening. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.